Bryan Cox here with Greg Lundeen. We're both volunteers with Southern Nevada Off-Road Recovery, and it's going to start snowing soon here in Southern Nevada. It snowed a little bit, and so we're getting ready for snow season, snow patrol, and that means chains. Last year was my first experience chaining up off-road. I chained up throughout my life for highway use, and what I've discovered is that chaining up for off-road use is a whole nother animal. When I was a kid, we'd chain up the Suburban to go skiing and whatnot, and I had never thrown a chain in my life. I had never had a problem, and what I found with off-road chaining up and travel, it's another level that I wasn't ready for.
Are you going to show us that today?
Well, we're going to talk about it.
All right.
I don't have any pictures of it. I destroyed them because I was so embarrassed.
So what happened?
Okay, so last year was my first experience on snow patrol, and I was so excited. I went and got some chains right away from AutoZone, but not to pick on AutoZone. It could have been anywhere nearby off-road. And I just went to look for some chains for a 35 size tire, and I bought them, and they're not cheap, of course. And I chained them up, and I thought I'm good. I thought I'm good to go. And I thought they fit a little bit shallow on the sides, but I thought, you know, these are chains. I've never thrown a chain in my life. And I also discovered that after I got them on, my hands were very cold. I was using mechanic gloves, and I didn't have waterproof gloves. So we go up the backside of the mountain to Wheeler Pass, and when you're going off-road with chains, it's much more, you're turning more, you're spinning your tires more, and before you know it, I've thrown 2 chains.
A little more demanding than just going up the road to a ski resort.
Exactly. So before you know it, I've thrown 2 chains. They're still up there somewhere on the mountain.
Oh no.
Somebody's found them, and they can have them. I don't care, because they're the wrong size anyway. And then coming off the mountain, you know, you're getting underneath the vehicle again. Of course, I knew that it's going to be wet and dripping, but then I had mechanic gloves that aren't waterproof, and my hands are literally sticking to the metal, and they're already cold.
Yeah.
And it was a miserable experience. I lost chains, my hands froze, and I knew right away I had to up my game if I'm going to keep chaining up off-road. So the beginning of the story is you got to have the right chains.
Makes sense.
And
tools are always important.
They are. And if you're an off-roader, your tires are not standard size. What's the standard size for off-roading? I'm on the small size. I have 35s.
Whatever you like.
By 12 and a half. You're running what?
37, 12 and a half.
37, 12 and a half.
But we've got guys on 40s and all kinds of crazy stuff.
You do not buy those chains locally.
Oh, that's true.
And so what you got to do is you got to get online. You got to find a company that sells chains for off-road tires that most likely includes tractors and farm equipment and other things. And you'll call them up, and you'll tell them what size chain what size tire you have, and they'll tell you what they have available for you.
Yeah, in my case, I actually took a set of big truck, semi-truck chains and cut them down to exactly what I needed.
That's an advanced move I didn't have. So what did you pay for those?
$40 on OfferUp.
Okay, now I'm feeling really stupid.
They're out there. They're not there every day, but you can find those.
Now, if I got online and I picked the chains I wanted, I ended up spending about $400 a pair.
They're not cheap.
They're not cheap.
That's why I made my own.
And they fit, and they're really high quality. And I didn't go the truck tire route. Now, if you want to go the truck tire route, get them and try them on to see if it's going to work.
Absolutely.
To be honest with you, Greg, so my experience comes from fail. Your experience comes from?
I actually come from the heavy equipment industry. So when you talk about trucks and tractors and chains and stuff, that's my background. So when I started looking for chains, I wanted something heavy duty. When we throw chains here in a minute, you'll see they're bigger than average, but I'm not going to tear them up.
Right, okay. My experience comes from a failure. Yours comes from?
Application,
right. So hopefully we kind of ended up in the same spot a little bit, other than I paid too much for my chains. Well, I paid a lot for my chains.
If they work, there's no such thing as too much.
I would caution a beginner on going with the big truck chains, because I don't know if they would know how to cut them down right.
Not everybody does, that's true.
So I would personally recommend getting online and spending the money to make sure it fits perfectly.
Absolutely. But you got to try them on in your driveway, make sure they fit, make sure you know how to install them. Because
Absolutely.
like you said, you don't want to learn in the snow, especially if you're already stuck.
Right, and when you're out there, it's good, probably going to be dark. It's cold. The wind's going to maybe be blowing. It might be snowing, and you know, you want to have the right equipment. You want to know how to put it on.
So do you now have the right chains and know how to put them on?
I do.
If I throw some chains, will you tell me how to do it properly?
We're going to do it together.
All right.
Because you may have some techniques that I don't have. One of the things I do recommend is the clothing. You're going to want to wear. You're going to want waterproof clothing. You're going to want a waterproof jacket that's nice and heavy. You're going to be in the road, and it's going to be slushy. It's going to be muddy. I would kind of recommend waterproof pants too, because you're rolling around underneath your rig, and it's going to be hot, and whatever snow's there is going to be dripping onto you. You're going to get wet.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to the waterproof clothing, I like to carry a piece of cardboard, sometimes a trash bag, sometimes a piece of cardboard in a trash bag, just so you've got something to lay down on that's dry and you're not going to get soaked.
I like that angle. I went with the blanket I bought at the truck stop. That's what I went with. And I carry it with me for that, for that and other reasons.
Reasons that we'd have to edit out of this video.
Wide variety of jackets available that are waterproof, visible, that meet the same requirements. I personally bought my first Carhartt jacket when I was 21. I'm 54.
So a couple years ago.
Yeah, these jackets last a long time. And Greg, you look like you got one too.
Yeah, I brought a couple different jackets here. Here's kind of a thin, lightweight Carhartt jacket. Cotton on the outside, polyester on the inside, so it's going to help wick sweat away from your body. You're not going to be soaking wet all the time. But the cotton on the outside is going to hold some water. So this is a nice, lightweight, warm jacket, but not super weatherproof. Brought another option here. This is honestly like a $20 truck stop jacket. It's got some reflective striping on it, kind of plastic outside and inside. It doesn't breathe at all, so you do get hot and sweaty in it, but it will protect you if you're out at night with the reflective stripes on it. You can go all the way up to a very nice reflective Carhartt jacket here that I'm going to let Brian describe, because I'm jealous I don't have one, and he's going to tell me about it.
Well, you know, with my disaster, what happened to me, getting cold, wet, and losing my chains, I kind of spent a little bit more.
You had to prepare for survival in the worst case situation, huh?
Just to stay warm and get the job done. It's miserable being cold.
Absolutely.
I hate being cold. And if you got the right equipment, then you avoid that. And you know, I think this jacket, I probably won't ever need to. I don't think I'll ever need to replace it. You know, it's well padded, well protected, and
boy, that's about as nice as they come right there, with an angled tapered sleeve, with a Velcro closure to tighten it at your wrist to keep the wind out of your sleeve. Straps up here for radios, lots of pockets. I'm admiring the double seal here with a zipper and snaps to keep the wind out of the front. That's a pretty nice jacket, Brian.
Thanks. You know, it's I don't regret getting it. I've been very happy with it, but you know, there's other brands out there. Make sure you take a look at it. What's it going to offer, and check the quality.
Does it have a waist closure also? It looks like it's got.
You can cinch it up.
You can cinch the waist also. Interior pockets. Man, I'm gonna have to get me one of those. And that's Carhartt also, you said?
I'll let your daughter know to get it for you for Christmas.
That's it. Can I publish my number here?
Yeah, this was a gift from my wife, and she got it actually. She put the off-road group on it.
Very cool. I'd like to have one of those. Hey Brian, thanks for joining us out here. We're going to talk about some snow chains today. We've already talked about the application of chains in recovery, but here's a couple different examples. So this twisted link chain here is actually a set of light truck chains that comes in a bag like this from any of your auto parts stores or tire dealers. And next to it, I have a heavy duty set of chains. These are actually off a semi-truck. And if you compare the size of the link, you can tell the semi-truck chains are much larger, much heavier duty. In our application, off-road, rocks, spinning tires, this is going to hold up better than this chain. Although this chain does have its application, because there are a lot of vehicles that have limited access in the wheel well, or on the front of my Jeep here, I'm going to turn wheels and I'm going to articulate up into the wheel well, and I don't want to risk tearing my fender up with the great big chains. So I'll run a set of bigger chains like this on the rear with a smaller set of chains like this on the front.
Greg, you've got the chain laid out, and that's a key part of it, just to make sure it's all there, it's facing the right direction. These chains are heavy, and you don't want to be fumbling with them when you're trying to get them on. And I think you're talking about just flopping it right onto the tire. You're not driving onto the chain to start off with.
Two schools of thought here, Brian. One is lay the whole chain out in front of the tire, drive the tire up onto the chain, and then you've got to take that full length of chain and fight that whole length of chain up over the tire, which can be done. It works, and I can show it here in a minute.
Well, that's the way I do it.
Well, I'm going to show you another method, because if we lay this chain out with the hooks on the top away from the tire with the cam locks on the outside, we can pick this chain up and just set it right up in there in the wheel well, tuck it in tight, pull forward about 18-20 inches, and then the chain is already wrapped around the tire. I don't have to pick up the whole chain and fight the whole chain up over the top. It's already there.
Right. And you never had a problem with it not running over the chain once you get it flopped over when you pull forward?
We're going to tuck the edges of the chain in there so it's right in place, and we're just going to roll right up onto it.
I'd like to see it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so we've got our chain laid out. In this case, I've got our hooks laid up, so when we take this chain and we lay it up over the tire, our hooks are away from the tire. We don't ever want hooks pointing towards the tire. We're going to have our cam adjusters on the outside of the tire. So I'm just going to take this chain and pick it up and lay it right up over the top of this tire. Pick that chain up 18-24 inches across and lay the whole thing right up over the top of this tire. And we're going to take that chain, lay it up over the top. So I've got a section right down in there. The back isn't going to be quite as critical on this side, because as I roll forward up onto that chain, the back's going to lay where it needs to be.
Good.
So now that we've got this chain laid up over the tire, we've pulled forward a little bit, and I've got the chain under the tire. Now we have to get these ends hooked up. We're going to start with the inside.
Greg, we got the chain on the tire. What's next?
Got the chain laid up over the top. The next thing I got to do is get up under behind it to hook that up. It's always easy to have a piece of cardboard, sometimes a plastic bag to put that cardboard in. Brian's got a blanket here that he uses, but anything to keep you from laying in the mud, the snow, the water is going to make it easier. And then you can lay down right underneath here in the comfort of your own home in order to hook that chain up. The next step is we've got to hook the inside of the chain. The inside of your chain has like an S hook that's going to go onto the inside link. Now, part of adjusting these chains in your driveway before you need to use them is knowing where you're going to hook it up. I could start on the loose hook, but I already know I'm going to be kind of loose on here. I've got mine set up where I'm going to put them on the second link. If I ever need to go on a little bigger tire, I can go out to the outside link. If I'm on a little smaller tire, I can always catch an additional link up inside. But on my chains, we're going to go right there, slide this chain around to the front, and we should be ready to hook the front up. Once that chain's hooked up, we can come out around the front. Got a little cam hook here that's going to hook on that link on the front. That link's going to cam over and be caught right there.
Now, just going back just one step, how did you know how many links you needed on that back side?
I laid it all out on my driveway and I installed these in ideal conditions.
Okay. And it's from that experience you knew how much tension you needed on the back to get it correct on the front.
In theory, we're going to tighten this up and see if I was right. If not, we'll adjust accordingly.
Gotcha. Two styles of tensioners. This is kind of the more common one you find that probably comes with your chains. This one's a little more expensive. I purchased it when I purchased my chains with the company I went with, and it's easier to put on. I think it's higher quality.
So what's the purpose of that? If we've got cam locks on our chains, I know we use a rubber bungee style tensioning device without cams, but in this case we have cams.
Yes.
Do
now,
you
notwithstanding
need
the
that?
cams, correct me if I'm wrong, the rule of thumb is you got to get these chains on as tight as possible.
Well, you certainly don't want them, the centrifugal force slinging them up into your vehicle.
There's no play. They're as tight as you can get them.
Right.
And I think the bungee cord is just one more item that keeps them on strong. And heaven forbid you have too much play, like I did last year, with the bungee on there, and there's a problem. Where's the chain going to go?
Towards the tension of the bungee.
Which is on the outside. Heaven forbid you had a chain come off on the inside. I think it would really wreak havoc on your brake line and your axle.
I'm sure it would.
Not only is it going to keep it tight, I think it's going to keep it safer.
Okay, I made an interesting observation. I don't know what your experience is, but often when we're off-road, we air down in order to get a larger tire contact patch with the ground.
Correct.
And I have found that this set of chains adjusted just like this, the overall circumference of my tire is exactly the same, whether I'm aired up at street pressure or I'm aired down, it's the same. So no matter how I install these chains and how much air pressure I have in my tire, the application's exactly the same.
I have an answer for you. The diameter's down, but the width of the tires is expanded.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the trade-off.
Absolutely. So
it's the same tire, just different dimensions in different spots.
In a little different shape, but overall it's still the same size tire. So the point was whether you air down a little bit off-road and get stuck and then need to put your chains on, or you plan ahead and you put your chains on before you've aired down, or if you're not going to air down, the application and installation is exactly the same.
I'm going to ask you, or I'm going to make a phone call.
Either way. You can always phone a friend.
You know Tim Fast? He's the expert.
I do.
What would Tim say? Hey Tim, I got a question for you.
Hey Brian, what's up?
Hey, air down or don't air down with snow chains?
So airing down depends on conditions when you're off-road. If you're on ice, airing down helps give you a bigger contact patch, but when you get in deep snow, you lose that height of the tire to grab the bottom of the snow, which could make you potentially get high-centered and stuck, which I see a lot of. Also remember when we air down in the snow that as the temperature drops, the tire pressure drops more too. So potential, if you were down to 12 pounds, you could be at 6 pounds by the time you're done with the day and maybe DB the tire.
DB meaning what?
Meaning the tire would fall off the wheel.
DB.
Yep.
Yeah, gotcha. So it really just depends on conditions.
Yes, all conditionally based.
There you go.
There you go. No matter what the application, you can put your chains on the same way.
Yes.
So I've done the first one. Would you like to do the other three, Brian?
No.
Anything else you want to add in this video?
Okay. I think this is kind of like a trailer. Looking at a trailer. If there's going to be a problem with chains or a trailer, it's going to go really bad if it goes bad. So
absolutely.
Notwithstanding, I found anytime I'm pulling a trailer, putting chains on, I drive down the road a little bit. I'm stopping. I'm checking everything again.
I'm glad you brought that up. I normally run a couple hundred feet down the road, get out, make sure all your cams are still tight, make sure your chain's not loose, sloppy, falling off. And when you are running with chains, you probably don't want to exceed 15, 20 miles an hour. It's a real rough ride. You're going to beat yourself up if you're on the asphalt, but it's not a 40, 50 mile an hour trip with chains on. It's a slow and go and get there and get her done.
You know, SNORR has good news this year. We have a snowcat.
So we may not have to do this?
We will. We will have to do this.
All right.
But when it gets really dicey,
we're going to call Tim and the snowcat, let him come help us?
That's right.
All right.
We're going to hit the bad phone and call for help.
I'm not opposed to that. I like help.
So if you have any questions about snow chains or how to install them, what kind you need for your vehicle, go ahead and ask in the comments and we'd be happy to get back to you. And as always, like, subscribe, and follow our channel. And thank you for watching this video of snow chains from SNORR.